Good evening, college football fans. We are back with another episode of Saturday Showdown. We have Brandon joining us tonight along with Dylan. I'm Caleb. We are going to be talking, it's talking season, so we're going to be talking about some big news in college football that's happened over the past couple weeks since we last talked to you guys. You can tell by our thumbnail there, we're going to be talking about the Oregon Ducks tonight. But before that, some other news we've got here is, something I actually truly saw coming. Alabama has decided to name the field at Bryant-Denny Stadium Saban Field after legendary Coach Saban retiring after this past season, ushering in the new era of Alabama football. That dedication will happen on Saturday, September 7th against South Florida. Thoughts, you guys?
They're begging. they're begging him to come back. That's obviously it's like an honorary thing, so that's pretty cool. But you could definitely tell. Not that they wouldn't have did something like this, but to do it like super soon, like this soon, you could definitely tell like they're missing him already, and the season hasn't even started yet. So it's a cool thing. He did a lot. In my eyes, I know some people might disagree. He's probably the best college football coach in history as of right now. I don't see anyone that was as dominant as him as far as like recruiting classes, the same players doing the same things every time, and then just consistency winning and then winning national championships. Because I know, they've always been like a force to be reckoned with, but I know there was a handful of years in a row where they were just like the best team on earth, dude. Like, so I remember sometimes watching them. Me and Brandon would watch them, and like they were actually convinced that they could play like some NFL teams and win at some point in time in his coaching career. He had some teams that were just unbeatable. So,
yeah, I agree. I don't know. I don't know if they're begging him to come back, but at the same time, you got a guy who was such a dominant force in that program for so long. At Alabama, it's hard to not honor him and putting his name somewhere on a field that he had so much success at. So yeah, I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing for Nick Saban. It's a good thing for Alabama, and just to keep that namesake around. Because you never know. I think Kalen DeBoer is going to do a solid. I think he'll be all right. And with things there at Alabama, I think they'll be fine. It might not be the same Alabama that we've seen the last however many 15 years or so. But at the same time, I think it would have been disrespectful for Alabama not to do something like this.
Oh yeah. So here's some quick stats for you guys. So Saban coached 28 years at the college level. He won 6 of his 7 national championships at Alabama: 2009, 11, 12, 15, 17, and 20. He compiled a 297, 71, and 1 coaching record, which is 80%, including a 206 and 29 record at Tuscaloosa, which is 87% at Alabama.
You said 206 and what?
206 and 29 at Alabama. And his teams won a combined 11 SEC titles, 9 which came with Alabama. And in his 6 national championship seasons at Alabama, his teams went 21-2 against top 10 opponents. And since 2008, the Tide was 37-15 overall against top 10 teams. And they were also ranked number 1 in the Associated Press poll for at least 1 week for 15 straight years from 2008 to 22, which broke the records of 7 years established by Miami from 86 to 92.
Yeah. You can't fight those kind of numbers wherever you go.
No, like I said, in my eyes, he's literally the best college coach probably in history as of right now. That's gonna be hard. That's gonna be a lot of hard. Even the records themselves, like 206 and 29 in one place. That's outrageous, to be honest. I can't even 206 and 29. That's absolutely crazy.
Oh, that's a lot of wins in one stadium.
At one place. That just speaks consistency. That's all that breathes out is just like the dude had the same plan. It worked every year, his whole career. Like even the teams that he had were bad were still good. Like I remember watching. I remember him talking about a thing. They asked him what he did anytime after he wins like national champion. He wins national championships. Like what does he do? Like does he go celebrate? Does he do whatever? He said he celebrates that night, as in like celebrates the family. He's happy that he won. But then the moment he gets up, he's up at 5:00 in the morning the next day. He grabs a cup of coffee. He goes and sits on his porch, and he starts making recruiting phone calls the very next day after the national championship. He said he celebrates it the night they win, and that's it. Other than that, he said it's in the past, and you can't dwell on it.
That's what makes him so good.
Instantly recruiting. 5:00 in the morning, that's pretty crazy. I mean, just calling guys the next day. But what's a better recruiting tool saying like, hey, this is Nick Saban. I just won a national championship yesterday. We'd love for you to come play at Tuscaloosa. I mean, there's literally not a better way to do it. So
it's like, how do you argue that phone call? Like,
yeah, you got it, coach. I'll be there. Like,
I was about to say, not many people can just pick up a phone and be like, hey, you want to come play with me? I've just won my 6th national title. Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even just that. You look at the guys that have, had success in the NFL, that have been at Alabama, and that obviously that's something that they want to keep doing there, which is why they brought Kalen DeBoer on, is because they felt like he was the next best guy to fill in that spot that could do what Nick Saban done. He did a heck of a job out in Washington, and it was North Dakota State before. Was it North Dakota State, South Dakota State? It was one of the two, wasn't it?
If
I remember correctly. But I know he did a heck of a job there too, whichever one it was.
Yeah.
Or wherever he was at before he went to Washington. He did a heck of a job at things there. But, to turn Washington around, after they went to the college football playoffs in 2017, 2016, something like that. They really weren't too strong of a program to be able to turn things around. It makes sense for Alabama to bring somebody in like Kalen DeBoer to be that next step from Nick Saban, because you're not going to replace a Nick Saban.
No,
it's virtually impossible.
Yeah, because the things he did even went above the college level. I'll get the stats next time. I didn't really think about this question as far as right now, but I mean, I would say I'm pretty confident. More than often, the players that got drafted, are either went on to had really good careers or are currently having good careers right now. There's only a handful that I can think of that didn't, or are not having good careers as of now. And most of them are quarterbacks. Most of them are QBs. But look at guys like Amari Cooper, guys like him.
Amari Cooper, Derrick Henry.
The number of just wide receivers and running backs. It
Mark
was
Ingram. What's the guy who plays for the Eagles? I can't think of his name. He's wide receiver. What's his name?
Jalen Hurts.
Yep, Jalen Hurts, and then they have a wide receiver that he
Devontae
played
Smith.
Yeah, his coaching went above just a college level. He did not only teach his players, how to win in college. He set them up to be successful in the next stage of football. And it shows, because some of these guys are crazy and good. So,
well, and it shows that he was such an incredible recruiter, because he built these teams where he didn't have to go out and get an elite quarterback. He just had to get a game manager, an average guy that could throw the ball, read the defense, and he stacked the wide receivers, running backs, all of his weapons so much that if he can get a guy to distribute the ball, that's all he needed.
Yeah, would agree with that. Just somebody who can come in and play. That's all he needed.
Yeah, that's true. So as you jump over other big news that happened, we now have the next edition of college football, the video game that just released last week. You had the early release last Tuesday, I believe, and then the full release on Thursday, Friday of last week. And to say it's a success, I think, is an understatement. They made over $200 million. EA made over $200 million before its full release on July 19th. So the number of people that wanted to play this game so bad, they spent the extra $20 to get the deluxe edition to where you could play just 3 days early. You had plenty of people do that to where EA made $200 million before just the full game released 3 days later.
Yeah, that just shows it shows how important it was to have something like this. My only fear with this game is that, with it being EA Sports who's developing it, who's producing it, is it's going to be basically just a different version of Madden, and they're just going to copy and paste it every year, and it's going to be the same things over and over. That's my only concern. I know there was a lot of excitement in it. It's the first time in 10 years that this game's been out that you've been able to play, college football on, a console game, and that's my only concern with it. Is it going to be, after 5 years, it's going to be like, oh, it's just the same game. Like there's no sense of getting it because we can just, upload a roster or anything to your previous year one. Is it going to get to that kind of mark?
Who says they do that though?
I could be wrong.
They went 10 years without it, obviously due to certain certain stipulations they couldn't do it, but it worked out massively in their favor to wait that long. I'm not saying they have to wait 10 years again, but why not every other year, every 2 years? I mean, you were talking about how much money they made. So there was a couple copies. There was $100 copy that you could buy. I don't know really what it had or anything like that. I'm assuming it had
So that was the deluxe edition. That the big selling point on that is you got to play the game 3 days early.
Yeah, and it sold like you said, sold $2.2 million in they sold $2.2 million in $100 copies. I mean, that's
a lot of money.
I mean, that's just one version. They sold $2.2 million of one version of the game. That doesn't include the other two versions that you could buy, or the other version that you could buy, whatever it was. So
I was about to say, I think they had that standard edition that came out later, but then they also had the bundle you could get where they bundled it with the new Madden as well.
So, I mean, if they were smart, I would think they'd do it like every 2 years, or every 2 years, wait a year, then do another one, because this game is going to be plenty enough. I mean, you got to think. People were still playing NCAA 14 10 years later because they loved college football so much, and Madden is so repetitious and so boring. So,
it's like people loved it so much that they even came out with not EA, but some other people that loved the college football game so much that they came out with a revamped version that you could download and apply to if you had the physical copy of the game, that made it where you could update it with rosters and all kinds of new features.
Yeah. So who says they don't do the same thing? Who says that they don't wait every other year, every 2 years, every 3 years, then throw out another game? If they were smart, they do that. But to be honest, they could really do anything. They could make a game for the next 3 years in a row. It's going to sell a ridiculous amount of money. Then they could wait 2 years and then make another one. I mean, there's endless amount of possibility. All I know is that a lot of my friends have it. I can't get it because I have PC and I'm not spending $500 to buy, to play the game. But every one of my friends that I play with that have a next gen series that play the game have said it's absolutely incredible. They said the graphics, the play style, everything is awesome. They love it. And, a lot of them have played Madden and said that it blows Madden out of the water completely. So that just goes a lot to say. You don't make a game for 10 years, then you make one, and people are saying that you're better than, basically any of the Madden games that have came out recently. So they're doing something right.
I was about to say the amount of detail they put into all the aspects of the game is insane. But, with the deluxe edition that released on the 16th, it was reported that they had, just from the deluxe edition, had over 700,000 players online during that window.
That's crazy. So,
easily, I think this is going to be easily thing of the year when you look at it. Game of the year, 100% hands down.
Yeah, I think it was game of the year before it even came out. To be honest, you wait this long for a video game, you wait 10 years, and it just built up hype, and it's been building hype for 10 years. Has been building hype. I can at least remember once every year like rumors of the NCAA video game coming out, like someone talking about it. And then it finally does, and people blew it out of the water. Obviously, like you said, you gave all the sales and how much money they had made. So, I mean, to make that much money, especially just on the deluxe edition, 3 days early, how much money was made before the game even came out? I mean, that speaks levels. So yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think it was game of the year before the release date. The moment they announced it, it was probably going to be game of the year without question.
Yeah, it is insane with that, and I played myself. I agree with what you said, and like what you said that your friends were saying. The graphics are incredible. If you just look at it, like I almost feel like to the point where it's like I could be watching a game on TV. But even the little details on if you do a dynasty and you have to go in and recruit, there's so many little details of like they took into account of, well, maybe you can't recruit some guys because you're not close enough to home for them, or you don't have the reputation or like notoriety, or maybe that they're not going to start right away. There's so many different factors that they give grades to that if you don't meet one of these criteria, you get locked out and you can't recruit the guy anymore. Or if you don't make it into his top 5, top 8, you can't recruit him anymore. He's off the board for you. So they put a lot of thought into this. And, like you said, rightfully so, after 10 years, the amount of detail in this game is pretty crazy.
I'm jealous. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I'm a little jealous, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But with that, we'll jump over to kind of our big talking point today. The Oregon Ducks is known for being a flashy school. Nike's, first ever school that they sponsored. They have all the uniforms, all the gear. They probably could play every day of the week and have extra uniforms for days. Well, it came out a few weeks ago that apparently their Nike CEO, Phil Knight, who is an alumni of Oregon, came out and said that, the Oregon Ducks have an unlimited NIL budget via the co-founder and chairman and Oregon alum Phil Knight. And that was a social media account posted that earlier this year or earlier this month. And that kind of, for a few days, kind of said, well, how is anybody going to compete with this? If you have Nike, you're saying, all right, go get who you want. Here's the money, whatever you need.
Right.
What kind of standard does that set for everybody else? There's no competing for that unless you really start thinking, some of these other schools are going to have to go to these Fortune 500 companies and be like, okay, we've got to step it up. What kind of deal can we do with you guys to kind of step up to this next level?
I hate to say it, I hate to be so blatant about it, but I mean, I don't really see anything wrong with it. I mean, sure, it doesn't set like a great precedence, but I mean, when the owner of Nike is the one who went to Oregon and he's throwing everything out at you and he's basically telling you, go get who you want, I'll pay for everything. Why wouldn't you use that? And what any other school would ever say, or any media person would ever say, if they ever had the opportunity like that where they worked for a school and they had that opportunity, they'd be doing the same thing that Dan Lanning and all of them are doing. I mean, why wouldn't you take that and be like, yeah, I'm okay. I mean, we got all this money. I am going to pursue anyone. Like, hey, you come to Oregon, you may hate the school, but I'll give you, we'll give you $1.5 million to come play for us, and then NIL money. Why wouldn't you do that? At this point in time, I mean, you got basically unlimited money, like you said, Caleb. So, you're just trying to win a national championship. That's, in my eyes, that's basically all you're trying to do. So why wouldn't you use every resource possible? And it just happens that Phil Knight is, he went to Oregon and he's willing to give you anything you ever wanted. So why wouldn't you use that? I understand why people are like, it could take away from Dan Lanning and the coaches. It could take away from their hard work. People might overlook that and be like, the only reason you're getting anything is because he's willing to give you money. But at the same time, any other school would be doing the exact same thing. They would have no problem.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I was just kind of going to roll with the same ideas that, if this is the case, if, this is actually going to happen or, does happen at any point, with Nike and Oregon. And I mean, Nike already does a whole bunch for Oregon as it is, with uniforms and equipment and anything on that order. Because I'm pretty sure they don't pay. Like they basically, Nike gives everything to Oregon, like free of cost, free of charge or stuff like that. There's no extra charge for that kind of stuff, as far as I remember. And it could have changed or whatnot, but the fact that you're gonna offer, this NIL deal to bring anybody you want to Oregon, and Oregon's already trying to make a big splash with things, moving over to the Big Ten and whatnot. Saw that today with the giant duck in the river, as you see in the background here. So, they want to make that splash. They want to be, national, college football champions every year. They don't want to be it every other year. They want to be the next Alabama. They want to be the next, they want to be the next dynasty of college football. And, the NIL is going to change. It's already changed things as it is in college football. If you're going to add something like this, if you have a big corporation, a big company bring in money like this, it's going to change how a lot of players look at things. I know there's going to be some of them that don't look at they don't look at the money side of it and go where they want to go. But I mean, why wouldn't you go to a place that for sure is going to give you an NIL deal? I'm sure there'll be like stipulations and whatnot. You got to be scholarship, this and that and whatnot. But still, it's big for college football. It's big for Oregon. And if this is is actually a thing, it does happen.
Yeah, that's true. And I think it's one of those things, like both of you guys have said, like, how do you argue that whenever it can only help you? I mean, and it's not necessarily your fault that, the founder, CEO of Nike went to your school. That's not your fault. So, like, it's not necessarily a bad thing to look at the school at Oregon and be like, well, that's not fair because we can't do it. Well, they didn't necessarily be like, they didn't go to run to Nike begging, be like, hey, we want to win a national championship. Give us all this money. Their alumni that goes there wants to see them win a title. And so, I mean, there's no like arguing that. But after all this was kind of went out for a few days, it kind of came out that those were false reports, and that narrative gained significant traction. Of course, with that's a big news for college football, especially with just the introduction of NIL. But the report came out and said that this is rumors, and that it's nothing that I'm sure they probably, like you say, get a lot, but I don't think it's to the point where they just have unlimited NIL. They probably still have a significant amount. Like Brandon, you were saying, you got to think about all not only football equipment they get, think about all the probably shoes, sweats, shirts, shorts, hats, sunglasses, you name it, whatever Nike makes, they probably have. So in a sense,
yeah, all their
every sport. Oh yeah.
It's like everybody wants to focus on the landscape of college football because that's where all the hype's at right now, especially like you said with Oregon moving to the Big Ten, wanting to make a splash and kind of, I guess, kill some of the rumors that, the Pac-12 was weak if they moved to any other conference and they would not do as well as they have in the past. And, I think this is going to be a big year for them to kind of let's go prove them wrong. You're in a conference where you're playing Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, all these tough schools. Well, what are you going to do now that those are your conference opponents and you have to play them starting this year every year now?
Yeah, I think I like we've all said, I don't think there's really an issue with it. The only person I feel bad for that's going to probably, catch a lot of the flack or it's going to take away from his success is Dan Lanning, because people are just, like I said earlier, only going to think that players are coming, just for the money. Like, there's already a bunch of rumors, like when this came out, that the two blue chip transfer quarterbacks and Dylan Gabriel and Dante Moore both came for NIL money, because I saw Dylan Gabriel is making like $1.3 million in NIL deals at Oregon. And then Oregon also got the number one, He's the number 3 player nationally, number 1 wide receiver, and number 1 player in the state of Texas. He was believed. The rumors were that he was locked into the Longhorns, but with the NIL deals, he transferred to Oregon. His name's DeCorian Moore. So, and he switched from, he's the number one player in the state of Texas, and the number three player nationally. And people thought he was linked to Texas already, but because of the NIL deals, he went to Oregon. But you can't take away from the credit that Dan Lanning has built in Oregon. I mean, the success that he's had while he's been there has been incredible. And like you said, they're going to a bigger conference, and I think they're probably going to do fairly well. And I believe at some point in time, Oregon will win a national championship. It's probably going to be sooner than later. The talent that they get and the coaching that Dan Lanning does is impeccable. And they've came closer. I mean, they've definitely had their name in the talks for a little bit. So, but like you guys have all said, if it is true, why, you can't blame anyone,
right.
And you can't blame the players for wanting to go there either, because, what if you're there for 4 years and then you get hurt and you can never play football again? But, you made $2 million a year while you were there.
Right.
So, I mean, you can't hate the players for going. You can't hate Phil for offering it if it's true. You can't hate Dan Lanning or anyone for accepting it. I mean, like you guys all said, it's not their problem that, their alum was just some guy who graduated from Oregon, then created Nike, and it went on to be like
no biggie.
Like the biggest, sports anything in the world. So, I mean, you can't hate the guy for it. So he just wants to see him win. He's been giving them uniforms and everything else for free forever. No one's complained a single thing. But the moment this comes out, because NIL is a thing now, the rumors are floating around, and some people think it might not be fair. Well, if they had the same opportunity, that any school would take it. Any school would take it if they had the same opportunity.
Right, and if you look at it, what it'll do is, if this does end up happening, is who's going to be next? When it comes to a big school. I mean, you look at Arkansas, to kind of dig on Arkansas, but they have is a Tyson Foods guy, right? Like, what's the chances of him being like, oh, you know what? Here's this. I mean, here's all this, unlimited, which we all know it's probably not really unlimited. It's just a large amount of money that's going strictly to this every year. Who's not going to say that, some guy from Apple isn't going to, be like, here's an unlimited deal for Stanford, something like that, or, just something on that order.
Yeah, but it's no different from any other school either. I mean, I remember, around where we live in Edwardsville, they get a ridiculous amount of money. Some dude died a handful of years ago, and he gave the school like $10 million, and they built a brand new swimming complex so they could have a swim team. I mean, they didn't. It's not they asked the guy like, hey, when you die, put $10 million in your will for for the school to have.
Right.
I mean, you take what you can get, and like Caleb said, it's not their fault that guy went to Oregon, graduated from there, and just made Nike. I mean, it's not their fault,
Yeah.
So,
no, you look at the other side of it, though, is it how much influence then do these corporations, companies have when it comes to who they want brought in and who they don't want brought in? Because they don't. I mean, not to sound like awful, but you don't want to bring in somebody who's going to tarnish your brand, basically, who's going to make you look bad. The same time. So it's going to be college football is going to go from, you're the best player out here, but you don't necessarily have a great, not necessarily a good, great person at the same time.
You just got to.
Do you want to bring that in just to have a chance at the national championship, or is it going to be enough to where it hurts your brand enough to where people don't want to come to your school?
I don't think. I mean, I definitely think that plays a factor, but I don't think that influences a whole lot. Because I mean, you got to look at Spencer Rattler. That dude was considered like one of the best QBs around. His arm strength. I don't know if you guys have ever watched like QB1 and watched him play high school ball. The kid's arm talent is incredible. His accuracy is incredible.
Yeah.
His IQ as a football player is incredible. He just has a terrible attitude. I mean, like one of the worst attitudes I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
So cocky, so everything. I mean, no one wanted him in Oklahoma, and Oklahoma's a pretty prestigious school. No one wanted him. He was actually benched for Dylan Gabriel, I think, while he was there. So, I mean, if you're not a good person, you're not going to get those deals. I mean, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Spencer Rattler, if he'd have just been a halfway, if his attitude would have been different, I mean, he'd be set up for life probably at this point in time. And that ruins your draft stock and everything. But I definitely would have to say that if Phil goes to the Dan Lanning and the school board at Oregon and says, I want this guy instead of this guy, I would say that probably has a lot of influence. That probably carries a lot of weight. 100%. I would definitely say it carries a lot of weight.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, especially with today, with the announcement that came, a couple months ago, where they're allowing schools to have corporate logos on their field that got passed. Good and well, there's going to be a big fat Nike logo on Oregon's field.
Oh yeah. I wouldn't surprise if it was right in the middle, to be honest. I mean,
because so the rule is they get one logo at the 50 and then two subsequent logos on other spots of the field. Just like you mentioned, Brandon, I'm pretty confident that Arkansas is probably going to have a Tyson logo on the football field. It would not surprise me one bit.
And it's going to look awful if it's sitting there in the middle of the 50-yard line. You don't see, a Razorback there.
Right.
That's my only like dig at this, like the corp, like having sponsors on the field. If you're going to do it like the NFL does and have them in the corners or on the sides. Don't put a big giant Nike sign, big giant Tyson Foods sign. Don't put a big giant, whatever in the middle of your field.
Right.
Don't do it that way. If you're going to do it,
at least with Oregon, if you think about it, they could put the Nike symbol inside the big O that they put in the 50.
Good. Yeah.
You could. No, but well, good.
Yeah. Well, you're just going to look like it's going to look like it's a bowl game every time you see them play.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have
that's my only dig with that side of things.
When you got money and you're willing to give it to a school, I mean, your money's going to carry weight.
Yeah.
And I guarantee if any of those guys, like the Tyson Food guy or Phil from Nike, I guarantee if any of those guys come up and say, we want this guy instead of this, or we want this here instead of that. Yeah. And the school board's like, well, we're kind of thinking like maybe we put it over here. I mean, how much weight does it carry if, Phil tells Oregon like, hey, I want our logo right in the middle of the field. Yeah. I want the Nike logo.
And they say, we'll put it in the field. We'll put it right at 50.
Yeah. And they say, well, how about the 50-yard line, on the sideline? And he says, okay, well, then I guess you guys just don't get jerseys anymore. Right. I mean, okay, I guess it's going in the middle of the field.
Yeah, never mind.
It's going in the middle of the field. I mean,
what color do you want it? Do you want it black, white, yellow,
that's
green?
The only problem I see with a lot of people like giving money, like this situation is, they're going to be running the show a lot, even for like they have a lot of power over what the college is like, who they could potentially pick in a transfer, recruiting or where logos go or anything. When you have that much money like those guys, you definitely your words carry weight.
Well, how long before it turns into like, you see the NBA where they maybe start allowing, universities to have one patch of a sponsor on their jersey?
Oh, I'm surprised that hasn't done already. I'm really surprised that's not a thing already. I 100% not surprised. I'm 100% surprised there's not a logo of some company on every jersey. I'm not surprised at all.
It wouldn't surprise me at all that happens. I'm surprised, like Dylan said, I'm surprised it hasn't happened already, and that they're going to, you can put your logo on the field before you can put the logo on the jersey.
Because Nike wins already because their logo is always on their jersey.
Right.
I mean, but I am 100% surprised that a lot of colleges haven't done it. Like some people haven't went to like an Alabama or an Ohio State or Michigan.
Yeah.
And like, hey, we'll give your school, $20 million a year to have this logo on your jersey and this logo on your field.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that's not a thing.
Right. Like you
go ahead, Caleb. You're good.
I was just to say, to have just one little 2-3 inch patch on your jersey can like it's like you said, just for that. And it like you said, I mean, I'm surprised we're not there already, but with the advancements with this ruling for the sponsorships on the field stuff, I'm sure it's not long behind.
How long do you guys think? In your guys' head, how long do you guys think before that happens?
At least the next 2 seasons.
Next 2 seasons? Yeah.
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 Here's so you brought up Nike with having their swoosh on a good chunk of uniforms across the league. If a big giant if Nike does do this unlimited deal thing with Oregon at any point in time, how you got to think that'll affect their jersey, like their jersey production at some point. Because if you're another school, you're gonna be like, I'm not gonna use them because they're not giving us anything out of it.
Unless they're giving,
we're gonna change jersey, manufacturers now.
Unless they're giving you a good deal.
Could.
Like,
but
hey,
at the same time,
you got these 3 jerseys, and we'll give you because you buy because you get the same jerseys every year. They might be giving you like a 20% discount. You go to Under Armour or something, and Under Armour's like, well, no, dude. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You're paying full price. I don't know. I can't help you.
But what line? Where does that line cross? Of kind of like, it's okay, that's okay, but this isn't okay, type of deal.
I don't know.
Is there a line?
I don't know if there is a line, to be honest.
Welcome to Pandora's box.
Yeah. It was just a thought that popped into my head. You're like, oh yeah, like Nike's logo was literally on probably 3/4 of the college football uniforms already. Like,
I think that's accurate. Yeah. And then you got to think the other fourth is probably some combination of Under Armour, Adidas.
Yeah.
Did Keem still use Russell?
Probably not anymore.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Maybe like a smaller school type of deal, but
I'd say most
are Adidas and Nike.
Yeah, that reminds me. Did you see where Texas Tech, they have a deal with Under Armour and Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Same type of thing. His logo, they painted it on the A&M field, or not A&M, Texas Tech field.
Yeah, because it's like his brand, like his
signature brand under Armour.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or,
it's like his version of like LeBron, basically.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because they just released those the other day. Last week, wasn't it? Like last week. They're really sharp looking uniforms too. I won't lie. They look really nice.
It is actually Adidas, not Under Armour. Texas Tech is an Under Armour school, but I think they just switched to Adidas because Mahomes, when he got to the NFL, switched to wearing Adidas.
Which is interesting because you'd think Nike would want Mahomes. That's weird too because you so used to seeing Texas Tech and in Under Armour.
Well, it's funny because you see all the pictures of Mahomes when he would attend Texas Tech things. He'd wear a Texas Tech shirt, but where it was under an Under Armour logo, he'd put tape over it and write Adidas because I guess it might have been part of his contract with Adidas that he had to not wear competing brands.
Smart. You got Adidas, a lot of influence right there. So
that's interesting to say because it is. I don't know. It was just something that came to my mind for a second. Like, if you're gonna give Oregon all this money, for NIL, and I know they're different. They're different things. You got your uniform manufacturers and you have NIL, which are two different things, realistically, I guess. But at the same time, where is that mark where, it's just a little overboard, I guess. I don't know. It's just where I think of it. So, and whatnot.
Yeah, in this article from April of last year, the contract Ohio State signed with Nike through 2033, so a 10-year contract, made the Buckeyes the biggest sponsorship deal in college athletics, with around $252 million.
Oh.
Whereas, like, you have other college athletics brands such as, Nike, Adidas, Under Armour. That's easily the big three. There's New Balance. You have Jordan Brand. I know Oklahoma's Jordan Brand. And
So there's another one too, isn't there? UNC.
yes,
Yeah,
UNC's Jordan Brand.
Is Colorado Jordan too now or no?
I think there might still be Nike
Yeah, I think
It's
between, and then here's a stat between July 1st and 2016 and June 30th of 2017. The SEC generated $967 million in revenue.
Jesus.
What team doesn't use Nike in the SEC?
Texas A&M, they are an Adidas school.
Adidas, yeah.
South Carolina was an Under Armour school. Auburn was an Under Armour school. I think Auburn's
they're both
switching.
Nike now.
Florida's Jordan Brand, I believe.
But that makes sense. Yeah.
But I think besides that, everybody else is Nike, I think.
Yeah. Interesting. It's just interesting. Just thoughts.
But yeah, so in 2022, Nike, Adidas, Under Armour were the top three brands of college football, and 130 FBS teams between those three brands. Nike has 79 of those sponsors, which puts them at 61.7% stake of college football, I guess, universities. The next closest is Adidas at 23.4%, and surprisingly, Under Armour only has 11.7%.
That doesn't surprise me anymore. I know it was a big thing, like when they first come out with jerseys and we're doing the uniform side of things. It was a bigger thing, but I know, like, if I remember, they had a lot of like financial issues and stuff, which is why they backed out of the MLB deal.
I think so.
A couple of years ago.
And I don't know if this is outdated, but this says out of the top Power 5 schools, so at the time it was considering ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, and SEC, Boston College was the only school that stands alone with a sponsor by New Balance.
New Balance.
Like
the champion of the college football world. Huh. Yeah. I don't know. It just was.
I mean, all this is, you got to think this is all generated just from the talk of, NIL deals and, what these different companies are doing. Like you guys says, what does it stop now from, whatever, successful alum of this school saying, hey, here's this money, go recruit X, Y, Z, or, go do this stadium renovation, or go do, I don't know, slap my logo on the 50-yard line, or like this, whatever.
Yeah. What's it stopping a corporation going to an NFL team being like, hey, we got this at the college level. Here's the deal. Like, give us this amount of money.
And I think you see that in some like colleges, at least now a little bit, with like, you see some stadiums are named like after like brands, if you will. Like, I know the one that just comes to my head is Boise State. They have Albertson. Their stadium is Albertsons, the grocery store brand that's up there, big chain up there.
Right. Yeah.
So that's another aspect of what stops these companies from saying, "Oh, go name your stadium whatever, Amazon Stadium or whatever."
Yeah.
Google I don't know. I mean, you look at like, I think the NFL. You got Allegiant Stadium. So
you got, Garrett, or what's it? What's Denver's? I know Kansas City is like Garrett Field at Arrowhead Stadium.
GEHA.
Yeah.
Arrowhead Stadium.
Yeah, and then Denver's was Sports Authority Field at Mile High for a while. I don't know what it is now. I can't remember off the top of my head what it is. But yeah, I could see that being the next thing that happens. Could you imagine a Nike Field at Oregon University or something like that?
Or it's like, or Nike Stadium. It's like, welcome to whatever field at Nike Stadium here in Eugene, Oregon. Like,
I'm surprised it hasn't happened already, to be honest.
Yeah.
Surprised there's not more fields or more stadiums named after something at the college level, at least. I know there's a handful that are named after something on the NFL level, But
well, that's interesting. I'm interested to see because they were talking about it. It was a big topic, I think, end of last year, like the naming rights for Arkansas's football stadium, Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium is up, and that they haven't necessarily revealed what it's going to be called next. But if somebody comes in and buys it and says, "Oh, we're going to name it this now," who knows what it's going to be?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well, you look at the look at the Big 12. It's like, we'll be okay getting rid of our naming rights to be like the All-State Big 12 or All-State Conference or something like that, like All-State Big 12 Conference or anything like that. You're seeing that there already. At the same time, but
just wait. You're going to see more of these corporations getting into college football. Like you said, whenever like naming rights are up for stadiums, you're going to see. I guarantee every college. It may not be as big as the Tyson Food guy or the Nike owner for like Oregon and Arkansas, but I guarantee every college football team has one bigger corporation that probably gives them more money than the rest. It may not be a whole lot more than some, but they might be. I'm sure Alabama has some contributor that has a ridiculous. Someone's offering or giving them a ridiculous amount of money. It's probably not unlimited, like like Phil Knight, but you're going to see a lot of before long. You're going to see a lot of these corporations saying, "Hey, we'll give you X amount of money, more for player recruitment or whatever, if you name your stadium after our company."
I mean, just looking it up. Yeah, just looking it up real quick at the Big 12 stadiums, you've got just looking through some of their stadium names. The UFC Knights, who's new to the Big 12, but they have FBC Mortgage Stadium.
Yeah.
So
you've got Texas Tech that is Jones AT&T Stadium. And I mean that's just some of them, but what like you said, like you guys said, what's stopping it from like some notable alum from the university being like, okay, let's name it after this company? Or
it's only a matter of time, to be honest. I mean,
really?
NIL deals are a big thing now. Obviously, it's just gonna increasingly increase over the next coming years, especially with all the big changes coming to college football. Like this year being a 12-team playoff. I mean, the more they start adding, the more they start allowing, the more lenient they get. You're just going to see it more and more, especially with like NIL deals being a big thing now, and they're just going to increasingly get bigger. It's going to get to a point where it's not just going to go to the players like, hey, you come play for us, we'll give you this. It's going to start going to the schools where it's like, hey, if you can recruit, 5 of these guys from the top 100, we'll give you guys, a $20 million incentive. Something like that. Or you put this patch on your stadium, or put it on your jersey, or name your stadium after us, or put it on your walkout, your walkout jerseys, or put it on your practice uniforms, or just anything. Like, hey, we'll give you $1 million here, $2 million here, whatever. I mean, you're just going to see that, like you said, within the next 2-3 years, a lot of this is going to start coming to fruition. It's going to start popping out more and more and more.
Yeah.
And
I know
it's
that's more of like the branding side of things at the same time, but money's money. If they're going to be like, hey, here's some of this to go to this.
Well, you can't blame any team.
Other part's going to go to the NIL trust fund.
Yeah, you can't blame any team. If someone offers you right now, like, hey, I'll give you $100 million if you put my patch on your jersey and put my logo on your field. Here's $100 million. Go recruit whoever you want to, and we'll just keep the money coming in. I would never say no. I'd be like, you got it. Whatever you want, you got it.
What stops you? Say you got an NIL deal with a company or anything like that. What stops you from, or what stops them from being like, you're going to have our patch on your jersey while your teammate's going to have a different logo because they're sponsored by them. They're sponsored. I shouldn't say sponsored, but they have NIL deals with this company where you have this one. So you're going to have like jerseys with different logo, different sponsors and stuff and whatnot. And it's the next drama thing of college football. Like, oh, he showed up today without his NIL patch on his jersey. Like,
hey, it's all money's money, and money talks. Unfortunately, and that's just how it is, dude. And it's gonna increasingly get like that more and more.
And not just football, basketball, baseball.
Oh, everything.
I was about to say, you read my mind there, Brandon. I was going to say, I know this is a football show, but what stops this from bleeding over? Football is the big one right now, but with how big March Madness is and how big it's growing, like they're wanting to expand it. Like you can see this easily bleeding over into basketball. I mean, start throwing logos on courts or like even baseball fields, put it out in center field. Like,
put it on. Put it on a baseball, put it on the football, put it on the basketball. Small little logos here and there. Put one on the backboard. I mean, the possibilities are endless. And wherever there's money, someone will take it. Someone will.
And they're going to find a way.
100%.
As long as the jerseys don't start looking like European football or European soccer uniforms, I will be okay.
Yeah.
If it gets to that point where it's just like you have, corporate patches all over it.
Never and then you got the team name just like little bitty right here.
Yeah. Little bitty right here. Yeah.
Never say never.
You get it on the helmet. You get a special Tyson Food Razorback helmet.
Decals.
It's a chicken nugget. It looks like a Razorback.
No.
Yeah. But
that'd be funny. It's like a one-off thing. That would be like a charity, like a NIL charity event. You get a Razorback that looks like a chicken nugget.
Yeah.
A chicken finger. Something.
So that's the big news in college football this week. We're still building up to college football. Like we'll be back in a couple weeks, guys, to bring you up to date on the latest in college football. We're almost there. Hang on. We're a little over a month away until college football is back. And we'll have some exciting things going for you guys here at the Variety Sports Network and Saturday Showdown. Anything else from you guys before we get out of here?
Nope.
All right, we'll see you next.
I got all the normal. Make sure you like, share, do all that stuff you do for everybody else too. We appreciate it. So,
and with that, we'll catch you next time, guys.